Good morning, everyone. 8:25 a.m., 3/29/2022. Reading the Spokane Communist Review. So, let me explain why this is semi-propaganda. First of all, just because I'm calling out Ukraine's propaganda doesn't mean I'm for Russia. All right, doesn't mean I'm a Putin supporter. I don't know. Our nation's too polarizing. Our leaders love to do that. They want to draw a line in the sand and force you to take, you're either this side or that. If you don't want to take the COVID vaccine, you're anti-vax, even though you've taken all the other vaccinations. It makes no logical sense, but then again, that's politics. And you people are stupid. This is why this is propaganda. The first thing you notice upon arriving at Ukraine's shattered capital of Kiev was a stationary train. One entire train of the metro isn't even moving. And it's because people are living on it. All their kitchen supplies are in there, blankets, towels, people sleeping on the floor. You'd think they would move it. It would be safer. But anyways, I don't know what that means about anything. It's kind of weird, sure. I see trains that aren't moving all the time. Why would you move the train? They might bomb it as it leaves. There's a war. Malone is a Marine veteran who now lives in Post Falls. This is why this is propaganda. He arrived in Ukraine on March 22nd, a week ago, and is working with a church in Lviv, a western city mostly spared from the fighting. But on Friday, he took an overnight train, so some trains are working, to Kiev with plans of bringing back the family back west. Okay. He knew Kiev would be intense. He served 2 combat tours in Iraq, so he's familiar with war. I don't think he is. You could serve 2 combat tours, and never see combat. But what he's seen over there, of course, 3 days shocked him. That's propaganda. If he saw two tours of combat duty in hot LZs, in places where real bombings were happening and stuff like that, he wouldn't talk like this. The streets are covered in glass. The consequence of shockwaves from bombs. It is war. We know a war is going on. The residents leave their windows open. Okay. Why? But they're staying. If you're staying, that's on you. It's something like out of an apocalyptic movie. The roads are nearly empty, other than military checkpoints, one every 200 meters. Sounds like COVID to me. Sounds like an average day in COVID world to me. It's not. These things shouldn't surprise a 2-time combat vet who's been to Afghanistan, who's been posted in places like Beirut, places that have been bombed repeatedly by both sides, airstrikes, whatever, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. This guy, he's making this shit up because he wants to get on front page. This is all self-serving bullshit. It's propaganda. And I'm not saying it's not even true. It's the way they present it to make it seem worse than war is. Why you'd have to do that? Well, because they want the Ukrainian narrative. They want you to think about Ukraine as the good side and Putin the bad side. When in reality, Putin is pretty bad. I'm not saying anything. But what gets lost in all this are the people of Ukraine, the people of Russia, the innocent people that, when you vilify one side of war, you tend to vilify the whole nation, and people forget that Russians, Ukrainians, Chinese people, Asians of, North Korea, South Korea, whatever, those are politicians, and they're not military people. So when you're talking about your adversaries on a world stage. A wise person, a person of true compassion, would not be spouting this shit to inflame the emotions and voting base back home. So let me explain something about Ukraine. And this is mostly for anybody on my Facebook. You know, I'm probably going to post this on locals just because I'm a whore. But so Texas, I can't remember when, about 4 or 3 years. They were talking about secession. They were talking about seceding from the Union because they're the only state that has that option written in to their constitution, into their contract with the Union. Right? They actually can opt out legally if they wanted to. Imagine, if you will, what that might look like. Texas becomes its own country, and by doing so, it would have to take a lot of U.S. military, it would take U.S. Coast Guard, it would take U.S. police, federal, in order for them to establish themselves as their own country, they would have to say, hey, we need these governmental infrastructure type, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, to make it happen. I'm not sure how happy anybody else would be about that. But let's say it happened. Texas secedes, becomes its own country, develops its own constitution. Well, there's a lot of people in Texas that might not have really wanted that to happen. Aren't really happy about that. They got family up in Oklahoma. They got people over, in Arizona, and they're like, now I need a visa to go visit my relatives in Texas. That's a fucking bitch, because like Canada, becomes like Canada. 20 years from now, we might say, fuck you, Texas. It's too unbalanced. We don't like the way this is working out. We want our Texas back. I know that sounds crazy, but us Americans don't have any real idea about having 5 to 7 different countries on our border, and or being the smaller country, the less dominant country. We don't understand the minutia of such situations. Here's another analogy to help you understand why Russia and Ukraine isn't what they're trying to tell you it is. Remember the Cuban? No, you don't. You're too young. You're too stupid. You don't give a fuck about history. But let me tell you a little history. There was something called the Cuban Missile Crisis. John F. Kennedy, way back when it was found out that Cuba had a bunch of nuclear missiles right off our Florida coast, it almost started World War III. Now, of course, we think we're the good guys, and we aren't necessarily. But when we found out that Cuba had our adversaries' nuclear missiles on their fucking land pointed at us, we said, fuck you, all right? Almost caused World War III. Ukraine is on the Russian border. Ukraine used to be part of Russia, but now isn't. In 1994, we took all of Ukraine's 5,000 nuclear weapons from Ukraine and said, here, we'll protect you from Russia. But Russia said, okay, but no NATO on our borders. No NATO on our borders because we don't want NATO on them. Just like we didn't want Russia's nuclear bombs in Cuba pointed at us, Russia saying the same thing about Ukraine. We don't want our adversaries' weapons in Ukraine pointed at us. So no NATO, no nukes. Oh, but we've got collabs going on there. So Putin said, look, y'all are pushing your fucking luck. Oh, now Ukraine wants to be part of the European Union? Whoa. That sounds too much like NATO, which I told you I'm not. This isn't just Putin deciding to take over Ukraine. That's the nuance of it. Anyways, the Spokane Communist Propaganda Review. It's such bullshit. I almost can't even stand watching it. Have a good day, everyone. Yes, I'll get a haircut one of these days. Where's my fucking hat? Fuck.